3.5 million years ago, the human animal stopped swinging in trees and started walking on the ground. Each human brought down with them their own unique way of communicating, their own unique manner in which they display emotion, and their own conflicts and ego. With 8 billion of these human beings walking around the same earth, you may have a strong, compelling urge to run back up into the safety of the trees. But don't. Instead, learn. Learn how to live among the humans.
Yeah, but do everybody. Hope everybody's doing good. I think I've got some pretty good stuff for you today. Today we will be, well, I will be talking about perception. That's right, perception. Perception. What is perception? Well, we can kind of think for this video that you will perceive something, which is your perception, and because of that, you will form an impression. So we're going to use the perception to ultimately get to the impression and how we make impressions. First impressions we make, how we perceive people. Why is this important? Well, it's extremely important because the way we perceive something or somebody is the way that we are going to react to it. So if somebody bumps into me and I perceive that person as rude, I'm going to probably communicate with them in a rude fashion. If I perceive that bump as just clumsiness, the person wasn't paying attention, I will communicate that way to the person. I'll accept their apology. Who knows, if I'm in a great mood, I might apologize for bumping into them. So perception is how we form our impressions, and that's the way we communicate with others. So very simple. If we don't get our perception correctly, we will not communicate correctly. And there are a lot of things that will mess with the way that we perceive. Some of them you will actually mess up yourself. You will cause yourself to perceive differently, and we'll talk about that in a bit. And others will come from smart people like marketers and advertisers who will make you perceive something as great, and it's really not all that great. So we're going to talk about this. When I talk about getting the correct perception so you could form the right impression so you can communicate correctly, it sounds like maybe a trivial matter. Well, believe me, it can be a matter of life and death. Yes, that's right, a matter of life and death. Am I exaggerating? No, I am not. Consider this if you will. We are not going to get political on these videos. I will not get political. I will, though, talk about topics, things that are topical, meaning they are happening right now or within the past few years. One of them were white police shooting black people in a large amount, more than they shoot white people. So let's go with that. If you are a white person and you lock your keys out of they're in your house, you are locked out of your house, you may walk around your house looking for an open window. You might, just as you open up the window, have a cop car come up, and the person might say, "Hey, come here. What are you doing?" And you'll have to explain to the cop that you're the homeowner, you've locked yourself out. More than likely, they'll say, "Go through the window, open your door, and bring out ID." There are stories in the papers of black people doing that, locking themselves out. I remember one by a garage door. Somebody was a homeowner who happened to be black, was trying to pry open the garage door. it ended much differently than the hypothetical situation I gave you. How are they perceiving that black person differently, where now they come out as the person is opening up the window, the cops come out with their guns drawn, and God forbid that black person makes a move that looks suspect. So when I tell you that it is a matter of life and death, I ain't kidding. So, all right, let's get off the that very important but negative stuff, and let's talk about how we actually first get our perception of stuff. And it's pretty funny. We are animals. We forget that we're animals, but we are. Dogs smell. Other animals are very good at hearing. Geez, I wish I knew which animals were. I should have done some research before I did this video. We also use our senses, and through our senses, through our five senses, that is how we take in, and that goes up to our brain, and that's the way we perceive it. So it's pretty funny that we don't perceive things through a logical standpoint right away. We actually perceive things first through our senses, our five senses. We know what they are. Let's see if I can name them all in one shot. We've got seeing, we've got tasting, we've got smelling, we've got feeling, and we've got hearing. A lot of people forget the feeling part. So we use those natural senses as the animals we are to take in things, and from those senses we start perceiving and making impressions. So let's talk about how some of this can be manipulated. If you want to sell a house, you don't want to sell a house. You want to sell a home, especially if it is indeed a family home. What do realtors do to make it seem like this house is not a house, but a home? They bake bread. A good realtor has some sort of bread making machine, or they bake cookies, but now they bake bread. And they fill up their bread machine, 2 hours before the open house begins on that Sunday at 11 a.m., and the house is filled with the smell of bread. They take the wannabe buyers, they walk into the house, they take in the smell. And from that, boom, they get an impression. They perceive that this place is not only a house, it is a home. I'll take it. Boom. So, boom, right there, we can see how that is it. Feeling. How do you get something with feeling? Well, I live in New York City, and boy, if you walk down Fifth Avenue at high noon, where the sun is beating down on both sides of the street, there is no shade, you are going to get quite hot in July. All of a sudden, as you walk by, a gust of air condition hits you on the sidewalk, and you look, and there's Daffy's clothing, and you say, this is great. You perceive it as a welcoming. You are on Fifth Avenue. You're a little hotty-toddy, perhaps. But all of a sudden, the store is open. Even your mom yelled at you if the door was open with the AC on. What are we doing? AC in the whole apartment house? But these people, they must be nice because their doors are open and the AC is blowing. So we perceive that as a welcoming. We have the impression that we won't be hassled in that. So there are a couple examples. However, what I find fun with is those great marketers and advertisers who know how to trick you into thinking through your senses that something is good. Let me give you an example. One thing is that you may look at something that is new and different. So what I'm saying is, I want to sell something, and first I got to get your attention, and then I want you to perceive it as something good. So one very simple way that's known in every marketing class is one way to get somebody's attention is to make something new and different. something new and different. So I'm a pretty smart guy as far as this is concerned, but they got me with this new and different. Let me tell you what I mean. I was looking for a bike, a single gear bike. My bike got stolen. I live in New York City. My bike gets stolen. So now I want one of these single gear bikes. And I'm walking down the street and I keep seeing this bike. It's called a Linus. And Linus happened to be my favorite character in Charlie Brown and Peanuts. I loved Linus, the guy with the security blanket. And not only that, but this bike looks sleek. I have never seen anything like this. It was new. It was different. I wanted a Linus. Not only that, but my cat's name is Linus. That's how much I like Linus. But this bike looked good and it was a single gear. So I went to my bike guy. Yeah, I don't have too many guys, but I do have a bike guy. And he kind of respects me. Because when I go see my bike guy, I don't say, can you put my spoke on my bike? I say, I need a spoke this long. I give him the measurement, of course. And then he cuts me the spoke and I go home and I put it on myself. I talk to him a lot. He respects me knowing about how to fix a bike. Not as much as him, but I can do it. So I also buy my bikes from him. And I take his recommendations. So that's why he's my bike guy. But not this time. I want my Linus. So I go see my bike guy on Lafayette. And I say to him, I'm ready to buy a new bike. And he said, what happened to the bike you had? And I said, it got stolen. And he said, well, why don't you buy a new lock? And I laughed. And then I got down to business. He said, what are you thinking about? I said, give me the Linus. And he looked at me. And he said, why do you want that piece of crap? Wow. He respects me. But the look he was giving me wasn't too respectful. Why do I want that piece of crap? Well, what was I going to tell him? Because my cat's name is Linus? Remember, I'm the guy that, all he's got to do is cut me a spoke and I can put my own spokes in. Should I tell him that I want to buy the Linus bike because I like Linus in Peanuts and Charlie Brown and all? I just looked at him and said, I don't know. Why? They're no good? So there you have it. Yeah, they got me, man. I was ready. I had the impression that this was a good bike. Why? Because it was new and different. So that's the way that they can kind of mess with you. All right. So this is kind of a 5-stepper. So the first thing they do is they stimulate your senses. So by stimulating your senses, that means they start one of your senses. That AC gets you, maybe the music you hear. I happen to get sensed by my visual. I saw that Linus bike. So they got me. So that's step number 1 to how we form our final impression. So step number 2 is what we do is we organize. So right now, this happens very quickly. Boom, I see a bike. Now I organize it. So the organization for that Linus bike was that this is new and different. Step 1 was getting my attention. It stimulated my sense. Step 2 is actually now organizing my thought. Wow, this is different. This is new. I'll tell you a very sad story. You know what? I'm going to keep it light. I'm going to tell a little sad story about, but I want to keep this all positive. I was going to tell you how some senses that were stimulated sometimes can form the wrong impression in a almost deadly way. But let's keep this light. So, boom, they got me. Number 2, like I said, we organize. What do we think? Well, I'm going to have to get to that sad thing in order for this to work out correctly. All right, here we go. I lived up on 97th and Park Avenue. Believe me, I lived on 97th Street, not Park Avenue. On 96th and 3rd, there was a park. At the time, it was in the 80s. A lot of drug dealings going on in the park, tons of them. There also happened to be basketball courts there, and there was also the subway train. At the time, my roommate was black. We had everything about the same. They called us twins. We were about the same size, the same weight, just about everything. Same build, same walk. We would go to 96th Street to play basketball quite often. If it was very busy, we would sit on a bench and wait. Or, great athletes we were, or we'd go and smoke a cigarette. But mainly we'd sit on a bench over the side and wait. Now, unfortunately, there was also a lot of drug dealings going on. So let's go back to that police. And I'm sorry if police are watching this video. I'm not beating up on you. I'm just letting you know what my experience was. And this is my own experience. So now you have a cop sitting in a car and they look over and something visually takes their stimulation, is stimulated. In other words, back then, maybe today, but back then, whites hung with whites, blacks hung with blacks. You didn't see much mixing going on, especially uptown. There wasn't all that going on. So as they looked, they saw black people, white people, Hispanic people. Oh, there's a black and a white guy. It got their attention. Something was new and different. Now, in their mind, they go to step 2. Something is wrong. That's step 2. So number 1, stimulates their attention. Number 2, black guy and a white guy sitting on a bench. Now let's go to number 3. Number 3 is the interpretation, the evaluation. Let's go to the nice one, the Linus bike. Number 1, my attention visually is stimulated. Number 2, I go, wow, that's new and different. Number 3, I say, it must be good. That cop, stimulated visual, a white guy and a black guy, it interpreted as something's not right. 3, interpretation evaluation. I hate to say it, this is the sad part. There's a drug deal going on. Why else would a white guy be with a black guy? And this is the funny part. I'm not sure which is more offensive, that the black guy is selling drugs or the white guy is buying drugs. But nonetheless, there you have it. We have both ran for the train at the same time because 96, you can hear the subway grate. You know when it's coming. We've been stopped running together by cops. We've missed our train because they interpreted that as something is wrong if a white guy and a black guy are running both together downstairs in a subway by a drug area. So there you have it. So that's how we do the impressions. And as you can see, one is, okay, I might have spent $600 on a piece of crap. The other one is a constant hassle. And boy, it just perpetuates into negative stereotypes from both sides. So we'll leave it at that. Just my experience. Okay? Not making a statement here, except about perception. All right. The other 2, in other words, there's kind of 5 stages to this thing. But the first 3, as you can see, the result is our evaluation. But what would step 4 be? Well, we put it into our memory. Now, what we put in our memory, that's kind of pretty funky too. In other words, we might see a stereotypical dumb jock. All right, so this guy is always being told to shut up. He's not smart in English. He can't write history, but he got an A in chemistry. We might not put that into our memory about this person. So later on when we talk about them, we might have never put that he got an A in chemistry. We might have said, it's an outliner, like they do in research. Outliners mean that it's not anywhere where the population was. It was kind of way out there, so you don't even count it. So what we put in our memory, what we choose to, is also something else. And then the last one is recall. Recall is something. I can only use my the best example I can. Um, my sister and her husband had a very. They're both deceased now. They had a very rocky marriage, and what do I mean by that? The police were called there on numerous occasions. Um, Domestic disputes. They were very violent to one another, both emotionally, physically, verbally, the whole shot. Um, and I do recall one day at a barbecue, she picked up one of those barbecue forks and she stabbed his hand. Uh, I remember they loved New Orleans and they had a nice little souvenir crocodile of New Orleans. Once she took it and like smacked him over the head with it. If you talk to her later on, 20 years, they got divorced. 20 years down the road, if you talk to my sister, she'll say, I'll say something about New Orleans. She'll go, oh, we loved it down there. We had a great time. We used to get souvenirs. You mean the souvenir that you beat the person, your husband with? Oh, barbecues. We had so many barbecues. Yeah, I remember the one where you stabbed him, his hand. So things we recall, some people don't recall the good times. I happen to fall into that group. Knowing that, I must be able to make sure that I say, were there any good times? So recalling is a funky thing. I could talk about that for a long time and the reasons why we recall and you know how deep it goes. Some things we suppress and all that stuff. That's not what this video is about. But there you have it. That's how we get the perception. You can see there's a lot of ways that we could mess with it and others mess with it. But now I kind of really want to get into how you it's not me, it's you. Yeah, it's not the marketers and the advertisers, it's you. Now I want to talk about the way that we ourselves mess up in our impressions. I love this part. And this is called our impression formation. It's kind of the process that we go through in forming an impression of another person. So the process that we go through making an impression about a person. So this is pretty wild. Let's talk about how we mess this up ourselves. This first one I love because I actually had done this so often in life that when I learned about it in a psychology class, I actually groaned out loud. I went, ah, and everybody looked at me to ask if I was all right. And yeah, I was okay. I just realized I had been an idiot for the last 40 years, but other than that, I was okay. What do I mean by I was an idiot? Well, I used to be able to look at somebody and say, that person is rude. And then for a while, that person might not prove they're rude. And then a little down the road, all of a sudden, they tell me, you know what? Shut up. And I go, wow. I always knew you were rude. I always knew you were rude. And I walk away saying, I'm a genius. I thought I should go into psychology because I could just look at a person and say, you know what? They're this. And within a few days, sometimes within a few minutes, they would prove me right. I was always right. I was a genius. Well, I wasn't a genius. I was an idiot. I was doing what is called a self-fulfilling prophecy. So let's talk about this. How does it work? I love this one. 4 steps. Number 1, make a prediction about a person. Or believe somebody else's prediction about somebody. So make a prediction. So I'll use both at the same time. So I make a prediction about a person. I look at that person and, well, I'm a teacher. So let's say a student walks in and they have their hoodie up, and they sit in the back room, back row, and they, by the way, I didn't plan this hoodie. It came in handy though, huh? And they sit in the back row like this, and I walk in, I see that person back there, and I say, he's going to drop this class. He's not sticking around. I know that type. He'll drop that class. All right. Now, on the other side, let's say I work in an office and somebody's showing me around and they say, okay, these are the three people that also work in the office. That's Keith and that's Brian, and they're pretty cool. But she's you know what? She's really rude. She's very mean. So watch out for her. Okay, so there's our two scenarios. One, I kind of made the prediction myself about that student, and over here, Tina, somebody told me she's mean, and I believed it. All right, number two, step two, act towards that person as though that prediction were true. Act towards that person as though the prediction is true. So in other words, you know what? I don't call on him ever. I say good morning to everybody personally. I've learned everybody's names within the first week. I don't know his name. I don't want to know his name. Remember me? I'm a genius. He's going to drop this class. Why should I invest any time? And once I kind of saw that he wanted to answer a question, and when I see that, I read faces. I'll say, yeah, you got something to say with him? I don't know what his problem is. I'll call on somebody else. So I act towards him in the way I predicted, that he's going to drop this class. He's not worth it. Over here, I act towards Tina like I've been told. Good morning, Keith. Hey, Brian. Right here. Hey, you guys want to go to lunch? You two guys want to go to lunch? Hey, Brian, how's your kids? Yeah. Hey, Tina. All right, so I communicate that way. Step three. You will now need something from that person eventually. You will have to somehow either need something from that person or communicate with that person. In other words, even that student back here, kind of need him to stay in my class. It looks bad if students drop my class. He could write a bad review on Rate My Professor, whatever. I needed him to stay. With Tina, I go up to her and somebody, my boss, she says, Mark, get in here. Bring a pencil. And I say, yes, I'll be right there. I don't have a pencil, so I go up to Tina. Now, I've been treating Tina like dirt for the last 2 weeks. I'm treating her like dirt. And now I go up to Tina because Brian and Keith aren't here. And I say, Tina, do you got a pencil? What do you think Tina's going to tell me? Tina's going to say, no. I'm going to say, but I see one right there. And she's going to say, I need that. With this guy here, I'm going to walk into class one day and I'm going to go, he's not going to be there. I'm not going to see this. I'm going to see an empty chair. And I'm going to say, where's this guy? And somebody said, I think he dropped. And you know what? Next, I'm going to say, step 4. I'm a genius. I knew he was going to drop this class. I knew Tina was mean and rude. I caused it to happen. I didn't call on him. I treated her like dirt. And then I expect them to give me what I need. And then when they don't, I get to say, see, I was right. Self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, if you really want to mess around a little bit, not mess around, if you really, really want to do what's right in life, I like taking that student like this. And I like starting a personal conversation with them right away. Even before class, if they come in. And if they come in late and I have the impression that they're going to drop, I fight that impression. I say I could be wrong. This could be self-fulfilling prophecy. Watch it. So other students, I would keep them after class and say, dude, dudette, you got to show up on time. This isn't right. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to make sure I do to that person. With Tina, with anybody that says, oh, this person is rude or mean, do the opposite of the self-fulfilling prophecy. Well, do it, but predict that what they said was wrong. And treat Tina great. So while everybody else is rude to her, you're treating her great. So you can actually get that self-fulfilling prophecy where she is good to you and gives you that. I don't have these props ready, but it's amazing what I have around. Yeah, she'll give you that pencil. Thanks, Tina. Boom. So self-fulfilling prophecy. The next one. I like this one because a lot of people fall prey to it. If somebody is obese, shy, are they active or inactive? Most people would say inactive. You don't know. And that one you don't know. You're assuming that a trait goes with the other two. So if somebody has positive traits, they're good looking, they're friendly, they're outgoing, they must be nice. You don't know that. The other three you saw, but the nice, you're just assuming. Now, you might be confused with that. I should have used another one because I got right direct to it. But remember this. Just because somebody's friendly doesn't mean that they're nice. That's probably one of the biggest things of this. By the way, this is called the personality theory, that you take positive characteristics and then you assume the rest of them are also positive. That's called the halo effect. So they're like an angel. So because they're this, they must be this. Some people really mess it up. They'll take somebody whose character is on TV, Jennifer Aniston. Oh, she's pretty. Oh, she's so friendly. She's so nice. She must be like that in real life. What? So that's higher level. You're really not dealing in reality. But a lot of people will think, back to that obese person. You ever see these football players? They're like 5'11", 340 pounds. William Perry, which was called the Fridge, was obese. He could dunk a basketball. He was pretty active. So that's the halo effect. The reverse halo effect is assuming if somebody like me is loud, obnoxious, they must not be nice. It's not you. I am nice. Sometimes I'm not friendly, but I would think that I'm always nice. What is friendly and nice? Well, friendly is, seeing somebody, who's down and out and saying, hey, I wish you a lot of luck, neighbor. That's friendly. Being nice and not friendly is, geez, you know what? Let's get your butt to a shelter. Come on, this is ridiculous, man. It's going to be 23 degrees tomorrow, tonight. You know what? Don't make me get a cop. Come on. I'm not being friendly, but I'm actually being nice. So be very careful as you look into this. All right. Those are the last two. Those are the only two I'm going to give you. Well, I'll give you another one. This one is called perceptual accentuation. Isn't that something? We actually, we perceive things the way we want them, that we think they are. Think about somebody's candidate that they like, whether it be a Republican or a Democrat. They see things they want to see. Oh, this person's doing this person's doing that, and they ignore the bad stuff. They don't want to see that, so therefore it doesn't get their attention. They don't want to see it. Same thing on the other side. This was pretty good research that was done with very small children. What they did was they gathered some children, and I believe these children were about the age of 5, and they gathered these children, and one group came from very, very poverty-stricken home. They were all getting total financial assistance from the government. The other kids were extremely rich. They were recruited from private kindergartens. But both were weeded out. Very, very poor, very, very rich. They were given some coins to play with. And after they played with these coins, nickel, a dime, a penny, a quarter, they were asked to draw I believe the quarter. And the poor children drew the quarter like this. For the rich kids, they drew the quarter, if not the actual size, a little smaller. The children needed that money. Isn't that deep? That's deep into it. But they perceived that quarter as a lot, and it is a lot to them. So they drew it big. Where these children, chump change, 25 cents, please. And my dad throws that on the ground. We don't even deal with coins. It doesn't matter to them. They'll draw it smaller or the actual size. All right. Bop, 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 bop. Well, what else do I want to tell you about perception? That's that about it. But let's talk about this. How can I put this? Well, hang on. Let me backtrack. As you can see, I just edited. I want to make sure we got this. So how do we increase our accuracy in forming impressions? I really should get to that. I mean, I gave you those. Let me sum it up, in other words. First of all, avoid the processing errors. Those processing. So a process is steps. So those steps were your senses, your stimulation, how you evaluated it, step 3 at the end. That's it. So make sure that you know that the house has a good foundation, that it's made out of cement. Make sure there aren't termites in the walls. Forget about how the house smells. It's a bread-making machine. Now you know why I referred back to this. I've got to make sure you are paying attention. Then analyze your impression. Were you the reason why it happened? Think about that self-fulfilling prophecy. Think about how we think that all good characteristics go together. And finally, what kind of mood are you in when you form that impression of that person? Will it be the same when you're in a good mood, or will you be going, oh, they're not all that, now that I think about it? So make sure you know that. All right. Before I summed it up, I was getting to this point. People are making impressions about you. Yes, this time it's not you, it's them. They are looking at you, they are listening to you, they are smelling you, they are touching you, they are using their senses, and they are observing you, and through that they are making impressions about you. So, how can you manage your impression? Now, I'm going to talk about this throughout. If you want to say, I got to be me, this is me, that's a fool's game. I can act any way I want, and I'm still me. I could speak Spanish, doesn't mean I was born in Spain. It just means that I have the discipline to learn a new language. and to be able to speak it. It'd be cool if I could also learn how to speak French. That would show that I even have more language strategies. So this is strategies for you to manage the impression you make. So if you say you got to be me, I'm pretty mature. That's me. I can't go into an office setting and be that way. I've got to manage the impression that others are going to have of me. So let's get away from, I got to be me. That's, I got to be me. That is you. And that is a smart you. It means that what impression do you want to give people? That's my arsenal of arrows. So one is, I want to be liked. Most people want to be liked. How do we go about being liked? So how do you have somebody, what can you do where somebody looks at you and goes, you know what? I like that guy. How do you do that? Can you manage the impression that you give others? Yes, you can. So to be nice. These, by the way, are extremely simple. First of all, smile. Not like a maniac. I mean, don't walk through the office like this. But I have to remind myself of this when I walk in a classroom. So I make a smile at the front door, and then I let it go into a pleasant look. And I walk in like this. This is pleasant Mark. That's regular Mark. You see the difference. We are told through media, such as sitcoms, and that the person who's stressed, the person who's running around, everybody goes, oh, look at that person. Man, I really like them. People don't like stressed people. We like watching them. The Real Housewives of anybody, pick it. DC, New York, blah, blah, blah. Let me tell you something. I'm not sure we like watching them. I'm not sure if you want somebody flipping tables at your events who get into these petty fights and ruin weddings, ruin funerals, ruin things like that. I don't know. I know I wouldn't. And most people in the office setting or in regular life, they don't like people that are there. Have a pleasant look on your face. Another way to be liked is to be of help. Now, be of help is in a lot of things. It's in the Zen philosophies. It's in a lot of things. There should be nothing new except be of help. What does that mean? Do you go around, how do you be of help? Does that mean work in soup kitchens, organized clothing drives? It'd be nice if you did that, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm just trying to manage the impressions others have of you in your workplace. How would you be of help? Well, here we go. I didn't work in an office for a long time. I finally found myself working at college as a tutor. And then I got promoted to manage the tutors. Well, let me tell you something. Once all the tutors checked in, there wasn't much to manage. By 9:07, my day was pretty much done. But this is academic, so I got my check and I kind of looked around. And one thing I found out in an office, one of the driving forces is the copier. If the copier is jammed or the copier is out of toner or the copier is out of paper, it shuts people down. The tutors are, oh my God, I need to make a copy of this. It's mayhem. And nobody knows how to do this. They call up, they might know how to change the paper, but paper jams, they just go nuts on it. So they usually call somebody. Well, I would walk in at 9 in the morning and turn the copier on, and it was like a bomb, a booby trap. It would say right away, paper jammed. So somebody last night, got their paper jammed and then just said, I don't know how to fix it, and left. And here I come, booby trap, paper jammed. I got nothing. Remember, after 9:07? So what I do, I walk over the copier and there's a manual still wrapped in the plastic, still sealed on a string, like somebody's going to steal the manual. Yeah, I cut the string. I guess I did steal the manual. I go to my desk and I start learning. That's pretty cool. You press it, it's animated, it shows you where the paper feed jam, whatever is, blah, 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 blah. So now, all of a sudden, paper's jammed. And so I hear it. Blah, 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 this copier, it's a piece of garbage, blah, blah, blah. And I go, hang on a second. Boom, boom. I can help you with this. Now, I know as a teacher that give the fish, feed for a day, teach them how. I'm even going to be more of help. Not only am I going to fix it for them, but I'm going to teach them how to fix it in a fun way. My pleasant face. That's how I'm going to walk up there with my pleasant face. I'm going to say, oh, you know what? This always happened to me. Watch this. This is real cool. If you hit this, it shows you where the paper feed is. And what's cool is this copier is on wheels. So look, you just turn it around and that matches up. Now, pull that tray out. And they look at me. I go, yeah, pull it out. They'll pull the tray out. I'll say, look in there. They'll look at me. I'll go, yeah, look in there, man. You'll go down and look in there and go, oh, yeah. I'll say, pull that paper out. And then, I'll say, now just snap that back in, hit the door, boom. Watch this. Bing. And they go, wow, blah, blah, blah. They like me now. Other professors, I will share my notes with them if they ask. I might personally feel maybe they should make their own notes and make up their own stuff, but I'm going to assume morally that they're going to use my notes and my assignments to kind of make their own off mine, hopefully. But I give it to them because I need to be liked, So there you have it. Those are two ways to be liked. Very, very important. Another thing I want to talk about is credibility. So to be believed. We mainly know about one way to be believed, and that is people will say to make eye contact. Yeah, but we all know that. So yeah, during a job interview, you are thinking your mind keeps going, make eye contact, make eye contact, make eye contact. We know that, and that's okay. But people that know how to deceive know to make eye contact. So what else is there beside eye contact that will show that you have to be believed? Why should people believe what you say? Well, one has to do with charisma. By the way, these are 3 deals. Charisma. 3 C's. First one's charisma. Somebody that's not very outgoing. Extroverted, if you will. But we want to kind of stay in the middle. Extroverted means you're like, about everything. And introverted means you keep everything in. Well, right now you could see people that don't talk as very much. I might believe somebody that's more open, who talks about things rather than somebody who's very closed off. So charisma is kind of a weird word, but it is one of the 3 C's, so I can't change it. So charisma. The more you're friendly to people. If you're never saying hi to somebody, they're like, hey, what's that guy hiding? Yeah, so maybe that's a good idea. Now you might understand. Yeah, somebody who doesn't talk much. What are they up to? So there's the charisma part. The other one is competence. Competence is a funny word because if I ask you what competence is, most people will tell me. If I say, well, what does it mean to be incompetent? I'll get answers like dumb, stupid, ignorant. Well, competent and incompetence. I'm only competent at a few things in life. I'm incompetent at many. I'm competent to change spark plugs in my car, but I'm incompetent to put in brakes. Does this mean I'm competent in fixing a car? So competence means the ability to do something. Incompetence means the inability to do something. I'm incompetent when it comes to brain surgery. I'm incompetent. Does that mean I'm stupid? No. I can teach at a college level. But I'm incompetent about quite a bit of stuff. So if you're always claiming to be competent, I'm real good at cars. And then somebody says, hey, can you check my brakes out in the parking lot? And you go, no, I can check your spark plugs though. So we know somebody who says they're good at everything. That means they're competent at everything. And in fact, a lot of times going back to being liked, or on to be believed. But if we refer back to being liked, a lot of people like people that understand what they're incompetent at and can poke fun at themselves about it. So, competence. Be cool on what you're competent about. All right. Very few people are experts at everything. Very few people are experts at anything. I'm not an expert at anything. I'm incompetent in a lot. All right. And the last one, character. Yeah, this is pretty easy, man. If you're a thief, who's going to believe you? If you're cheating on your wife or your husband and everybody in the office or all your friends know it, who's going to trust you? So there you have it. Charisma, competence, and character. All right, so that's the to be believed. All right, the last one I want to actually use is I want to tell you about how do you have the impression that you're polite. And before I do that, I have to explain what politeness is. A lot of people think politeness is saying please, saying thank you. Remember, being friendly and being nice? This is kind of almost the same thing. So politeness is saying please and thank you. Okay. Would you please go back to your seat and sit down? Thank you. Now I use both the word please and thank you. But that wasn't polite. So, what is the deal? And we're going to wrap it up after I teach you what politeness is. Well, politeness has to do with two things. And if those two things aren't occurring, then you're not being polite. And a lot of people think they're being polite, but it's passive aggressive. Hi, can you do me a favor? Can you get back in your seat? Wait a second. You said hi. Can you do me a favor? You didn't even wait for me to answer. You gave me no way out. So you're not being polite. You're being passive aggressive. You gave me no way out. So the first thing we have to understand is the word autonomy. Autonomy means free will. Everybody wants to have free will. And as you get older, your autonomy grows. That is why at 15, 16, 17, you want free will, but your brain's not, society says your brain's not developed enough to give you free will. We're not going to let you drink alcohol. We ain't going to let you vote, blah, blah, blah. So free will, autonomy is what we all want. All right. Even at the age of 65, when you go to get a cookie and somebody says, don't eat that, you say, hey, I'm 65. I'll do whatever I want. So young people and old people, we want our autonomy and everybody in between. So to be polite, you've got to give somebody autonomy, free will. And the second thing you have to do is you have to let them have good face. Face. This is what you say when you say somebody has to save face. It means you let them be put in a good light. So here's a perfect example. When I was a student teacher, they basically gave me my own class. I taught at the worst high school at the time in New York City, the number one worst school, Washington Irving High School. There was a stabbing on my third day there. A very, very violent school, but I wanted to be there because I knew that if I could make it there, I could make it anywhere. So there I was. In that school, there was a 19-year-old sophomore. I taught sophomore class, English, and he was 19 years old. He was huge. New York City, they can't kick a student out as long as he shows up, even at that age. He was huge. He could step on me. He was quite intimidating as well. He didn't talk much. He would look you in the eye and give you a look. Oof. Oof. Let's call him James for now. So James, I was told that James would be trouble. And because I knew about the self-fulfilling prophecy, I said, I'll be the judge of that. I tried talking to James a little. James was okay with me, but just one-word answers. Okay. I asked other teachers, how do you deal with James? And they said, just make bargains with him. I said, make bargains with him. I don't even remember. Remember that recall? I don't even recall what they told me because that's not the way you do it. But I wasn't sure how to do it. Remember, I was just doing my student teaching. So I was okay for about 2 or 3 days. And then I saw James start to get up and walk over to these young sophomore girls who were probably 14 at the time. And he would just kind of lean on their desk. And the students would look up at me like, are you going to do something? I don't know what to do. He would walk over to another desk. And I kind of thought maybe if I ignored him, that was my strategy, he would sit down. But after the third young lady was looking at me helplessly, thought I had to do something. By the time I realized I had to do something, the bell rang. And I had those 3 girls just kind of leave, being very disappointed in me, and I was disappointed in myself. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I had no idea. I wasn't going to make a bargain with him. I knew that was wrong. So James came in that next day, and within 3 minutes, he was up. And I said to him, I walked up and I said, James. And he looked at me. I said, I'm begging you. I'm begging you. You're killing me. You're killing me. There's no way I can teach like this. You're killing me. James, I'm begging you. Could you please go back to your seat and quit getting up and hovering over people, please? And with that, I turned my back. And as I was walking back, the longest walk I ever had, I'm looking at the chalkboard. James is behind me. The class is dead silent. And I know what's going on. The kids are looking at James like, that old guy just told you what to do. James ain't going to let an old guy tell him what to do. And this old guy, I don't know what to do as I'm walking very slowly. And boy, did I walk slowly. And right as I got to my desk and decided I'm going to walk around the desk to buy me a little bit more time, I heard a chair in the back move out. And I said, thank God. And I slowly pivoted around, and James was slowly sitting down in his chair. I didn't wait till he was all the way in it. I knew he was there. He was getting there. I said, all right, guys, so I think I was teaching Catcher in the Rye. So Holden and I talked, and by the time he sat, I was able to conclude a sentence, turn to him very quickly and say, thank you, James. I so much appreciate it. And continue. Now, I stumbled upon this. I would like to say I knew what that was, and I don't know if it'll work, but I know I stumbled on the two good things that politeness was. And for James, politeness equals respect. And remember, that's all James had was respect. He was a sophomore at the age of 19. He got the respect usually through physical intimidation, though I gave him the respect by being polite to him, and I didn't even know it. But I fulfilled two things. One, I gave him autonomy. Think about it. I asked them, please, and it didn't matter how many pleases or whatever. I asked them. I didn't ask him and then tell him. I asked them. At one point, I even said, James, I'm begging you, please. I already said what it was. I wanted him to sit down. I didn't pause and say, please, sit down. That wouldn't have worked. I ended it with my request. I gave him autonomy. Then I turned around and gave him, let him save face. Let him make sure the class knew it was his decision, not mine. Because another teacher would have said, would you please, please, please sit down? And then would have stood right there and said, I'm waiting. You think James would have sat down if the teacher said, I'm waiting? You know what? We're not gonna start this class until you sit down. What does James care? James will just fold his arm and it'll be a nice standoff. And then you're gonna have to go, you know what? Do I have to call security? Oh, now you lost everybody. You get out of that school. Go to a different school. You lost all that. I stumbled on it accidentally. Me turning around was just because I didn't know what the heck to do. I was buying time. It wasn't until later when I researched and I learned about this kind of stuff, I realized I gave James the two things he needed for politeness, which to him showed respect. He had the impression I was respecting him. Okay, that is it. This is a little bit over an hour, so I appreciate you watching this fully. If you want updates, please subscribe to this channel. I will be showing a lot more. I'm also showing very small little clips, but I'm reinventing them. So even the small clips, like I'll probably make one about the self-fulfilling prophecy and stuff like that. All right. The next video I'm going to put out has to do with culture. So if you're following along like you should, the next long one I put on will be about culture. It's not what you think. All right. So as usual, have a great day. Yabba dabba do. Be nice, be credible, and make sure that you are forming the right impressions. Thanks. I'll see you on the next video.